Okay, so the first order of business was to review the current contract. Um, why don't we just take out of order? You can go ahead and approve or discuss the meeting minutes from October 8th.
Sure.
I don't have anything. Anybody have anything on them?
I didn't have any comments.
Okay,
No,
so
seemed fine to me.
I'll move that we accept the minutes from October 8th as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Yep.
Okay, so that's something
We're
that,
remotes, just so for the sake
oh,
of
but-
properness, we got to do it by roll call.
Yes.
so Jim,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Anne Marie, yes. Thanks,
All right.
Evan.
Thank you.
Right, and then we'll go ahead and start. Oh, here comes Larry. Perfect with the current contract.
Yeah. So I can put it up on the screen if you like, or we can just kind of speak to it real quick. So, you see, we entered into it in October, so about a year ago today. It has an escalation in it where we start our 24 to 25. So our fiscal 25, we started about 750,000, and we will end the contract 2028. So fiscal year 29 will be 844 131. Then I guess maybe it's a matter of if anyone has any questions or
I don't have any questions on that, but I can just tell you from my experience, the town got a very good deal from E.L. Harvey. There's a lot of other communities saw 10 and 20% increases in sanitation, 5-year sanitation contracts in the last several years. And so seeing 3% increases, that's great.
yeah. I was personally pretty pleased with that one. Yeah, otherwise it's honestly it's pretty standard uh municipal solid waste contract.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of particular areas to call out that would make this unique. Um and we have um our general ways that we can get out of that contract if we were to try to get out early. Um I also think that we'd probably have some opportunity to work with E.L. Harvey in that capacity if we were going to try to change our program.
Yeah.
Wasn't there provision maybe I saw that we can exit the contract with 90 days written
Yep.
notice?
Correct. Yeah, I think that when we get if we find ourselves in that position, we might be able to leverage E.L. Harvey a little bit um, to make that change. I also, when we were negotiating the contract, and it's not reflected in the document, but they were very much aware that we were going to be looking at the current program. So I still went forward and negotiated the 5 year because that's how we got our good rate. With the understanding that, we're gonna look at how we're executing this program. So yeah. All right. Any specific questions for the contract?
Nope. I just kind of opened us up, Larry. We accepted the minutes because that was just kind of an easy thing, and then we just went to number one, so you really didn't miss anything.
Thank you, and I'm sorry all for running late. I got a sick baby and sick wife at home, so it's a bit of a tornado.
No worries.
Absolutely.
So if you want to go ahead and take over, moving on to the next item.
Sure, let me just grab the agenda. Was it
It's just
necessary research for the upcoming meeting?
actually just before that, it was discuss potential areas of concern.
Okay, and I thought that was areas of concern with the contract. Is there another
I think
pool?
it's no. So I think yeah. I mean, I think that was supposed to be a little bit more broad,
Okay.
and that we should be looking at areas of concern with our own program, and also anything that stands out in the data that we pulled from DEP to kind of try to lump all of that together.
Yeah. So I have a couple of thoughts. One is, and Evan and I just, when we were just the two of us on at the very beginning, started talking about this a little bit, that both of us started playing with the big spreadsheet there. And like I was saying at the last meeting, I think it would be great if we could take a look at, how communities under different kinds of programs, how they do recycling wise versus what ends up going into landfills, so that we don't choose an avenue or start going down an avenue that might take a good program that we have and make it so that our recycling rates go down, because we certainly don't want to see that.
Right.
And I don't know if, does Grafton typically have, when you do any kind of community comparisons, do you have a basic group of communities that you use as comps?
Yes, and so when we have basically a list of 14 that I use when I do the community comparison,
Okay.
like data for the budget and such. Um, but I actually started playing with the data in this a little bit differently and trying to match us with communities that have the same household size that are enrolled in the program. And then I was sorting that to kind of figure out what programs they're using and then kind of extrapolating more data from there. So we can certainly do it with the 14 benchmark communities that we use. But I think we should also drill down a little bit on maybe communities that we don't normally consider
Yeah.
our comparisons, but might have a similar usage of a program.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think if we can look at a lot of different aspects of it, and just something that came up, that just when Anne asked about the about Hopkinton,
Mhm.
and you said that they just have like an annual fee that's 696. Um, they also have I think a pretty low recycling rate. But um, if looking at that data had how many households we have here in Grafton that actually participate in the pay as you throw program. And then how much revenue we take in. And so I think if we could do some analysis where we looked at, well, what is the cost per household in Grafton? Um, because I doubt it's $696 that they're paying in Hopkinton if you do the math. And
Right.
so it would be interesting to see, how do we compare financially on what the financial impact is to every household that participates in the program. I think that would be good information to have, because I mean, it's not if, we're going to come up with a program that is going to cost more than what people are paying now. And I think when we get down to the end and we're making a recommendation, a really good thing would be if we could say, we went into this knowing we're going to be paying more to make it an enterprise fund that works. But here's how we compare to other similar communities and what their annual cost is per household. I think that would be something that would help us really defend what our final recommendation is.
Right. Just in the quick math category, because I was doing that before we jumped on, but there is, if you take let's say we use a round number of $1.25 million with our base fee and then our tipping fees and everything else put together.
Mhm.
And you divide that by the number of households that participate in the program, which is roughly 5,200. You come up with a number that's just south of $250
Yeah,
a household, which is
$21 a month or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's a pretty good it's a pretty
Yeah.
good rate, you know. I know that's not the general consensus, and trash fees are always contentious, but that is actually not a bad annual fee.
No.
So
And I think if we can show, that look, in Hopkinton and in this community and that community, this is what their cost structure is. I think that will help us make that case when we have to make that case.
yeah,
So just to clarify there, so on or around $250 per household that's participating currently would cover the entire nut.
at 1.25 million, we have to factor in
It's
some
gonna come up.
some administrative costs and then some some tipping fee wiggle room, right? Because you don't want to be right at whatever you.
Sure. Yeah.
So a little bit of that, but that's also, what I had found when I had done the quick math was it's actually about 237 if you took it just on the numbers. So I think if you're figuring 250,
Mm.
that already has a little bit of wiggle room, for lack of a better term,
Yep.
in it.
Yeah, so I agree with Jim. I think, for the ultimate sale of this is that'll be compelling to see, where we are now, where other communities, as you said, those ones that you typically
Yeah.
compares to, so on and so forth. And I bet the people think that they currently pay more than $21 a month
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
bag. I think
And
that's the
I,
question.
I think what's interesting, and this is kind of and we've talked about this is kind of the beauty of pay as you throw, is that there are households that are probably paying considerably more than $21 a month. And then there are households that are paying probably considerably less. Um, and that's kind of the beauty of the pay as you throw, is that you only pay for what you
Yeah.
actually utilize for the service. Um,
I can't imagine I pay $100 a year
yeah.
between my wife and I in our house.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm one of the low ballers too. I have a question. This might be off of the actual agenda topic, but with the totes, the 35 gallon or whatever, and again, some of these communities are doing, and
Yes.
the notion of the tote program with overflow would be bags that you would just purchase.
Hmm.
Um, I guess where would the incentive be for, like, say myself or Jim, like, uh, that's every week and we don't fill it up, it doesn't matter, right?
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's I think there's a little there probably is some disadvantage for the extremely low users, because you're going to be paying a minimum, there's a barrier, or there's a minimum entry right into the program. So whatever, let's say that's a $15 a month, it works out to as your base rate, and then everybody pays, for the whatever they produce over that. Um, if you're producing far less than that, then yeah, it's probably not the greatest deal for you. Uh,
Yeah. So Evan, on that type of a program,
yeah.
two questions I would have is, one is, have you had any discussions with E.L. Harvey about whether their fee would increase or decrease if they had totally automated services where they didn't have a guy go pick up the bags? Um, and
Mhm.
and the other one is whether or not the town is set up software-wise to do billings for all of the participants in the program. I know there are some people who have water and sewer in town. Where I live, I don't. And so I don't know if you would have to expand. I assume you probably use Munis, but no.
No, no, it's a sore point, because we wanted Munis, but it was too expensive for
Oh,
our,
okay.
because Munis
Um,
is beautiful, but our software is great too. So we use Vadar, uh,
okay.
and those folks at Vadar are wonderful. Just in case they're watching this, but they really do have a good program. But I also don't want them to know my secret pinings for Munis.
Yeah.
Um, but we have the ability to just add the module
Okay.
in Vadar to go to that type of billing. There's obviously some upfront cost to that, and there's some upfront work to that to get all of the addresses built, and the everything else that goes
Yeah.
into creating an enterprise fund,
Yeah.
and that kind of setup. Um, what was the first question, Jim? I'm sorry.
About the E.L. Harvey contract and whether or not you'd had any
Yeah, so
conversations.
just preliminarily, I think that if, I wanted to we'll get a couple of these under our belts, and if that's, one of the questions we have of E.L. Harvey, I'll certainly, kind of see if we can hone in on a little bit more decisive a number. When we were negotiating this last contract, we talked about a toter system and automation, and they had, stated that that would be a savings to us to do that. Um, I think that part of the issue is if we go to a toter system and we like to retain the pay as you throw, I don't know that that is as advantageous if you just went to everybody gets a 96 gallon container and they come and dump it once a week
Yeah.
and it comes out of that bucket and that's it.
Yeah.
So there's probably a little room for discussion there, but I can certainly, try to hone in on that.
As far as I can see, we already are automated. It's just a driver and the thing goes out and takes your bag. We don't have additional people on the truck anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but so I think that is a level of automation. I think that when I was speaking to E.L. Harvey, you know, that works probably, whatever it is, 70% of the time, 80% of the time,
Oh,
whatever
bag rips.
that is. But, the bag rips are they're too far from the curb or there's whatever the other issues are. I think the drivers are getting out more than if we were just on a strict toter program. Um, but I don't know how much that would actually change the dollar amount. We'd have to
Hmm.
talk to those folks a little bit
My
more.
my other thought was like, then why would we not just go with making the bags cost what the program costs? I guess it'd be hard for us to figure out what that is or not really.
In my opinion, not really.
Okay.
So I think the reason why we exist as a group and we are discussing kind of how to do this, and maybe we do come to that conclusion in the end, but um, if you remember when we were doing the budgeting program, I think you were um, more on board with making the program cover itself with the pay as you throw. And I think our other select board members needed some further dialogue and review and discussion. I think there was some balking at just ripping off that Band-Aid. And I think that's going to be that I think that's the core mission of what we're trying to do is figure out what's the best solution here and advise the board on how to execute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess like my question is, sorry, and this will be it for me for a minute. Is like, would there be too much variability with that somehow? So we need to fund this enterprise fund and such that at the end of the year it covers itself, right? So you need some sort of guarantee with the income
Mhm.
and so if it were that we just went fully bags,
Yep.
all of a sudden people aren't using the bags at all,
Right.
or yeah, or less bags or something. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
No, so I think, and I don't know, Jim, if you have any experience with this, but the way, to my mind, how we do that is you have to build in some kind of a factor into your budgeting that shows that, well, we may see a fluctuation of 20% or 10% or whatever that number
Yeah.
you wind up, doesn't matter. Um, it's actually probably a very similar exercise to what we do every time we change the bag fees because we know that when we announce a change of bag fees, people run out and buy, a year's supply of bags in one shot, and that obviously skews the amount of revenue that we thought we would get in. So we actually, build in a little bit of that into the program, and I think we would do again a similar calculation. We'd have to be always trying to be a little bit over what the program needs because we need to be able to make sure we don't come in as a deficit, but not so much that you're obviously generating huge surpluses because that's not what we're trying to do either.
Yeah, I think there's a discussion that we could have about because I think there's only the good thing there's only a few different models. It's not like we have 500 different models to look at. There's just the less than a handful. And changing how people are expected to manage their trash and recycling is going to be disruption. And so if as we have these conversations, if staying with the current program is one way that we're leaning, one of the benefits of doing that is that there is no disruption among residents on how they have to manage their trash. And it doesn't seem like it's a hard thing to deal with, but a lot of people get upset with change and disruption. So I think that that's a real value in not changing how we do things. But
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Jim. Um, when we change any municipal program, we obviously get a segment of the populace that's unhappy with that change kind of regardless. But I don't know if you had this experience, but my experience, trash was one of the worst. Uh, people feel very strongly about
It's
trash.
it's one of the few instances I've ever had protesters out in front of a town hall was over. Um, I was the one in that community who set the fee, and I set the first fee that they had ever had. And yes, there were protesters with signs out in front of because we cut it from twice a week trash pickup to once a week trash, once a week recycling. And instead of being picked up in their garage, it was curbside. And they had to pay for it. So they really went nuts.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes, you've got other regulatory things pushing on you. The other thing that I think we need to look at too is if we stay with the same program and we simply increase the fees, the disincentive to throw things away and to recycle them is going to grow. And more people will be recycling more. And we have to do some sort of or you're going to have to
Right.
do some sort of calculation on the revenue side, because I think there'll be more people like Ann and myself who are recycling everything or composting everything and only putting we put our trash out this week, and it was 3 weeks since the last time we put anything out. And it wasn't even full when we put it out. We only put it out because we're going away next week. Um, and so I think you'll see more people as that disincentive to throw things away grows.
Yep.
People will be better about recycling, and then you're going to have to do some sort of a calculation. I think the first year is going to be really hard
Yeah.
to come up with a good number. And I would certainly encourage the select board not to be too upset with the town administrator if it's off a little bit, because there's going to be some variability there that is going to be outside of everybody's control.
There's the quote of the meeting, just to be clear.
Well, and that's what, as I'm just trying to think of, I've looked in, like you said, there's just a small number of programs, right? Or various ways that we can do this. Given that we already do pay as you throw, so at least we already fought that fight a while ago. Um, and that's what I was trying to sort out is like in terms of how do we come up with the number? And to your point, okay, now we have a number of it's around this number right now for at the rate that we're at. But to Jim's point, and then so who knows what other things change when we implement this, and how do you factor that into like the fees? And then I thought, is that when the tote idea
Mhm.
is easier because it's fixed, right? Versus the bag is a little bit more variable. Um, so, anyways, that's just where I was trying to sort out.
No, I think that's a very valid point, is that when you go to the toter program, you have that base number to work from, right? So your margin of error, it shrinks considerably because you know that your base revenue is going to be X. And then you can look at what your tipping fees are and your tonnage and blah, 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 put all that together. And then that's where some of your estimates come in, or your forecasting. Um, Whereas with just a pay-as-you-throw program, it's all forecasting. I think it's doable. But yeah, the first year we'd have to really refine our data and see what we can come up with.
So I've got one other question. Are the totes all the same size? I think you said 35 gallons.
So in other communities, I think there's generally 35 gallons, 64 gallons, and 96 gallons. Seems to be the three um, most ubiquitous sizes that I've come across.
And what are the size of the bags right now? The smaller bags.
Mm,
You know how many gallons those
Five,
are?
5 gallons and 15, maybe.
Yeah, I,
Okay.
I was yeah I was
I'm not
thinking they
sure.
were no, I was thinking they were uh no, I will double check that, because now that we've said 5 and 15, I was gonna say 8 and 21, so I might be
Because
grabbing that number from the wrong part of my brain here.
given the size of those toters, you're probably not going to be selling a whole lot of bags.
Right.
So the tote things would have to pay for the full cost. And
Yep.
then it goes back to, if you can fill up 55 gallons or whatever it is, um, your your incentive to recycle for a lot of people will disappear. There's a lot of people who do it because it's the right thing to do, but there's a lot of people who do it because of the disincentive to pay for the bags.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm trying not to be selfish because totes probably would be a better, I think I'd pay more. But besides that, I think the bags, just going full bags, it would be more equitable in that respect. And additionally, to Jim's point, even if for the first year it would be difficult to sort out, perhaps, the monetary value we need to put on them, but for residents, it's something that they're doing already. And then let's say that becomes too difficult or whatever, maybe the tote, could be further out. I don't know. Just thoughts.
So Evan, let me ask you a question. Do you think that there is realistically more options other than a combination of totes and recycling containers and pay as you throw that we would even be considering? I mean, we're not going to consider privatizing it and having people
Right.
just go out to private companies like some other communities do.
Right.
We're not going to have people just dump stuff at a central location somewhere. So that's not the model we're going with.
Right.
And we're not going to, I'm assuming, and it's just my assumption, that you don't want to open a sanitation department and buy trucks and hire people to run your own sanitation department and take it. Although maybe that's something you want to do. I don't know. Maybe it's
Um, uh, so we've actually done a little bit of, so let me back up. So I think you're right, Jim. I think that the two models that are really available to Grafton, both because of our the political will in Grafton to, like, say, create a transfer station is not going to exist. I can't see that being the way anybody wants to go. So, I think our two models are either the toter with overflow bags or just strictly bags. I think that's the two main programs that we would be interested in. I did look, and this was a very back of the envelope exercise, but I looked at creating our own sanitation department and what that would cost. And, in a year where we're going to pay $1.2 million, it came out to be pretty close to $1.2 million
yeah,
to do it ourselves, because we don't have the economy of scale, right?
yeah,
And so, you've got your employees, you've got the benefits, and you've got all these other nuts, the leasing of the trucks, and you really have to lease three trucks, not two trucks, because if one truck breaks down, there's
yeah,
a lot of factors that come into it. So what we looked at was another community of a similar size that has their own sanitation department, and said, well, what does their model look like? And it didn't bear fruit to
yeah,
my mind. I mean, we're just, adding to the complexity of municipal government without the benefit of saving money for people. So
yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I I don't think we should make the decision today, but I think maybe we should begin to focus then on those two models. Maybe
Mhm.
when we have a full committee, we can say, look, let's really focus just on these two models and start moving in that direction. Um, the other question, and this is why I asked about the size of the um, totes, is that with totes, everybody's going to be paying the same.
Mhm.
And so there isn't a big incentive, and smaller households versus larger households are going to pay the same exact every month.
Right.
Unless there were different size totes where you had a fee structure where if you had, I'm just going to throw numbers out here, a
Yeah.
30-gallon tote, it was X amount per year.
Mhm.
A 50-gallon tote, it was Y. And if you got a 96, you're paying, twice as much or three times as much as somebody who gets a 30. Um,
Right.
that would maybe provide some stability in your forecasting, but also retain some of the fairness of the pay-as-you-throw program.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I don't personally know of a community doing it that way. But there may very well be. That may be a great option for us to look at. I'll have to drill down in the data a little bit, because we do have in that data, they do collect information on toter sizes and a whole bunch of different little nuance in there that I think is gonna gonna be valuable. Just before I just want to circle back to the bag sizes because I did just pull that up. And so the small bags are, Anne Marie, neither of us were correct. Although the small bags are 15 gallon and the large bags are 33 gallon.
Okay. All right.
So
That gives me,
neither of
like I
those
said,
numbers were in my head at any point.
I just put ours out this week, or
Yep.
my wife did, to be honest. I did not. Um, and so that was for 3 weeks, one bag, and we
Yeah.
didn't even fill up the 15-gallon bag. And so I'm just paying for that one bag. But in this scenario, during that course of 3 weeks, I'd have a tote that would be I probably wouldn't even be putting it out because it,
Mhm.
wouldn't be even close to being full. I would put it out eventually, or maybe I'd put it out every week and would only have this much trash in it.
Yeah.
And so that my question was, because some people with larger families are going to say the pay-as-you-throw program isn't fair to us. And then smaller families are saying, well, this toter program isn't going to be fair to us. And so I was thinking if there were different sized totes, you might be able to
Mhm.
bring down the cost a little bit for larger families and just bring the cost for smaller families up a little bit. Maybe people would be happier with that if if we were able to do different sized totes. And I
Right.
don't know if that causes a problem for E.L. Harvey either.
Yeah,
If their
that's a
machine
great.
can't pick up a little tiny tote and only a certain size tote or something.
Right, right. Yeah, that would be an interesting question to glean from those folks. So just as an aside, I have started to put together some slides on the different programs that are out there. Starting with the most basic, how many are pay as you throw versus not pay as you throw? How many have tax rates supplementing their entire program? Those type of questions. And so I think this discussion is helpful because we're kind of narrowing in on what data points we need to be looking at, and so I can start putting together some more slides or graphs on these comparisons, and then also do that with our sister communities, and then see what fruit that bears.
I have a couple questions. How does the school and municipal buildings factor into all this?
So they don't generally.
Okay,
We still have E.L. Harvey and we have dumpsters. So they don't go through the same
okay,
program, different truck and all of that.
okay. So we're not worried about that. And then I guess a question then for me would be like through EL Harvey is how, back to Jim's point, maybe if it's automated or not, like how would it look for them with all bags system versus tote plus a couple bags?
Hmm.
And then just to keep in mind, I was just thinking to myself, obviously all of us are aware of this being on this committee. People who have, paid attention to town meeting and whatnot know this as well, but there's going to be a ton of people out there that will be sideswiped by this, right? That aren't fully paying attention. That's
Right.
we have to just keep that in the back of our minds. To your point, with the information that you're going to glean that we can push out, here's
Yeah.
how many communities are doing this, here's how we fall. We're really low, they're high, so on and so forth. So yeah, that'll all be super important.
What if we push out new information with the purchase of the current bags? Is there a way to include like a flyer when you go to pick up your
Yep.
trash bag and
So
say, hey, like change is coming, or we have a meeting coming up if you want to have your voice heard?
yeah, I think absolutely. And I think that's a great way to do that. I will tell you an embarrassing story. So just this week, um, I was given one of the inserts that go in with the bags from a resident. Um, and I didn't know that it existed. And I've been here 4.5 years, and that information is tremendously outdated. Um, and it just had never, it's never come up. I've negotiated the bag purchases every single year. They've never mentioned that there's a flyer or anything. It just never
Wow.
came up. Um, so we're going to be redoing that as quickly as we can because it is exceptionally outdated. But I think as we hone in on kind of what we think is the core bit of information we need to get out to people, we should be making that change and putting that in with the bags. And what I'll do too is in the lapse between this and our next meeting, I can reach out to the folks at Waste Zero and find out how far in advance they need to know to make that change, right? So if we have thousands and thousands of bags that are already laden with this flyer that's outdated, when does that flyer actually hit the public? So I'll have to figure that out. But I was a little taken aback by that. I'll be honest with you.
I don't think I've ever looked at it. I just chuck it right in the recycle bin.
Well,
Why?
At least you're throwing it in recycling.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
I'm not
was
putting it in trash. The one trash bag I put out for every month.
no, I was alarmed. I mentioned it to a few people in the municipal center, and they were all like, "Oh yeah, that's got real old information on it." I'm like, "Well, this is the kind of information that I need to have."
Yeah.
You know, I just hadn't I just had never come across it. So we'll clean that up. But yeah, Larry, I think that would be a really strong way to push that information out.
And we're gonna have to find other avenues too, I think, to try to get
Yep.
information out to people as well.
Yep.
Probably, I just checked, there are no participants other than us. There's no one attending other than the four of us.
Right.
But it would probably be good. And if, once in a while the select board could have a discussion, because I assume that more people watch the select board meeting than are watching our meeting.
I would agree with that. I think probably marginally, but one thing that, as far as the select board goes, I'll add a slide to our TA update that I do at every meeting and try to push it out there. But I know we've got, I mean, public outreach is always an issue. And we sometimes do better at it than other times. And so we're really focusing on trying to get a baseline that is, these are the 5 steps we do every single time so that we don't drop the ball anywhere. But one of the things that we can do, obviously, with this program is, yes, there's social media, there's our website. We can utilize our reverse 911 non-emergency segment because I do think this is one of those things that people, you know, they need to they need to it needs to be brought right in front of their faces so that they know that this change is coming.
Yeah. And, there's other avenues like the Grafton News and,
Yep.
the
Yeah.
Grafton Facebook
Correct.
page and stuff like that. Social media is a lot of people get their news now, especially that most local papers are sort of defunct and don't really follow, local government business anymore.
Right.
And
True.
just so you know, Jim, we have select board reports, and my
Right.
understanding of that segment of our meeting is specifically just for committees that I'm on. I report
Yes.
back on those committees.
Yeah.
I don't talk about other things per se. So that would be my role too. And then of course Evan's there to correct me when I misspeak relative to this particular committee. So I'll be sure to do that. And I think I did after our last one.
Yeah, I believe you did as well.
Yeah, that's I guess all. The only other thing I mean, I have a lot of ideas kind of like at rollout time, just things that we can do, like, one of those community recycle days, like things to help people, right? Get rid of things before this. And folks are always asking for those types of things. But I looked into a little bit about this, like, sorry, I'm looking for my notes here, like a municipal assistance coordinator, or there's grant money out there. And I know it's like probably just like one-time things, but with that, we'll be able to use any of those things, like say to have bags or totes for folks who, you know, seniors who are eligible and
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, absolutely. We already have a senior program.
yeah.
And I think it is fairly well utilized. I'll have to get some numbers on that too, as far as what the exact utilization is. But, um, I think we need to be conscious of that need for those type of programs. Um,
So we could, like, this would be grant eligible, some portion of it potentially, would it?
yeah, so we do some of that. I want to say we're using our RDP money to offset some of that, um, to make sure that that's exactly what we're doing and make sure eligible for that money, but I'm pretty sure we are. Um, yeah, and we've kind of built that in right to the cost of the program is that yes, there are going to be some folks that are going to need assistance, and that might move the bag fee by a penny for everybody else, but
Mhm.
that's kind of how we do it, you know.
There was this one, the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program grant.
Yeah, I'll have to dig
Okay.
down. If my memory serves me correct, it was like that's like textiles and things like that.
Okay.
Um, but I could be misremembering that. I had done a program where we got these local bins that you would put your textiles in, and that would help divert that from the waste stream. Um,
Yeah.
because it's weight and it's bulky and it doesn't degrade, so it takes a long time.
So I know that's outside the exact scope of this, but I think anything like that, folks are always asking for those,
Yep.
how to get rid of all this other stuff, programs. And even if as part of this, we got some sort of a grant we could offer a day. I know those things are probably a pain in the neck to run, but it might be nice and good faith for folks.
Yeah, I've never had fun at one, but you know, I don't think that's I don't, you know, I think there's some value to it, especially if we're going to be doing it at the time of change. You know, maybe we offer a little broader scope of items that we can help folks get rid of to kind of incentivize that we're making a change here.
We move on to our next, I think it's research needed for next meeting.
Yeah. Um,
Probably already gave you a few
I was
things.
gonna say, we
yeah.
gave you a bunch of things
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Leary, do you have anything specifically you want us to or me to be focusing on as far as getting us some data?
No, I think that what I've heard as having been covered in the meeting has been really helpful. I
Okay.
just wanted to flag for you guys. I'm having a lot of tech issues on my end, and I don't know if it's showing up in the meeting, but I keep getting kicked out of the meeting,
Okay.
and my audio is going in and out. So
Okay.
that's why I've turned off my video. I seem to be able to hear you better at this point,
Okay.
but unfortunately, I missed large swaths of the discussion tonight, and I apologize for that.
No, I think that's probably happened to all of us at one point or another in the age of Zoom here. So we'll also, you know, the recording will be available on
Sure.
YouTube, and then the minutes too. And you know, I think that you know, Jim and Anne Marie and some of the things you had said, Larry, you know, I think will drive. I'm gonna go. This is what I did last time. I go back and I watched the video again and say, okay,
Okay.
gotta do that. I gotta do that to try to put some of this together. So, um,
So do we want to just then go ahead and schedule our next meeting? Do you want to stay with 2 weeks, or do you want to go out? If you do 2 weeks, then the 2 weeks after that would fall on Thanksgiving week. We go
okay.
3 weeks out, it would bring us to I think the 19th of November. No, maybe too long. 1, 2, 3, no, the 12th, whatever. Either the 5th or the 12th. The 5th would be a 2-week cadence. The 12th would be 3.
My personal preference would be the 2 weeks.
Okay. So the
Um,
5th of November.
oh, Jim, you're
Oh,
actually
yeah, November 5th, then, is that the day we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Larry, how does November 5th look for
I
you?
think that looks like a good day for me.
Okay.
And then if we have,
I like the
if we
2 week
have to, we
cadence.
can either go the 19th or the 3rd. We can talk about that next time, see if everybody is gonna be
Okay.
tied up or traveling or something, because a lot of people do during that week,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. But I like the 2 week cadence as far as, you know, trying to keep this moving.
Yep. All right.
So,
I move we adjourn.
Second,
all right.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Jim,
yes.
Larry,
Yep.
Evan,
Yes.
Anne Marie's yes. All right,
Okay.
good night, folks.